It's recording.
Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cotter. I am the executive director for Wicked Queer, Boston's LGBTQ plus film festival, and we are here with director of programming Katie Shannon, Father John Martin, and Shannon Post, who are with the kind of amazing documentary as part of our 30th program called Building a Bridge. Welcome everybody.
Thanks, good to be with you.
Thank you for having us.
Exciting. So Father Martin, I guess we can start with you. We were sort of chatting before we started recording, and you kind of told us a little bit about your connection to sort of the Boston area. So if you maybe want to like tell the audience a little bit about your connections with Boston.
Yeah, I'll try to do it in brief. So I'm a Jesuit, and when I entered the Jesuits, it was the New England province. So I'm technically a New England province Jesuit. And I did my novitiate in Jamaica Plain and worked at, oh my gosh, the St. Francis House, Yeovil Hospital. And then I did a lot of retreats at Eastern Point Retreat House in Gloucester, Mass, or Gloucester, as we say. And then I did my theology studies at the old Weston Jesuit School of Theology in Cambridge. That's why I know the Brattle Street Theater, which is now part of Boston College. So I am I always say my spiritual home is in Boston.
Woo. Raise it up. So I guess my first question would be maybe for you, Father Martin, as well. Tell me how the book came about and what kind of inspired you to sort of make the book. And then I'll probably ask the same question to you, Shannon, about the film.
Yeah, so I'm a Jesuit priest and I work at a Catholic magazine called America. And I obviously I know LGBTQ people and part of my world in New York. I've always known them, but I had never really done sort of formal advocacy for them. And that changed in 2016 at the Pulse nightclub massacre. And what dawned on me after, as you know, largest mass shooting at the time, 49 people were killed, was the lack of response by most US bishops. And it dawned on me that even in death, this community was invisible to the church. And so I did a Facebook video that turned into a talk that turned into a book called Building a Bridge, and that led to this ministry that I have today.
That's great. So Shannon, how did the film come about?
Yeah, so along those lines with Father Martin, I went to college in Orlando, and one of my friends was killed at the Pulse nightclub massacre, and his mother is in the film, Christine Leinonen. So I had been wanting to tell that story, and then Evan, the co-director, came to me and he was like, there's this priest, he had this great response to Pulse, and I went to a talk and it was amazing. There were LGBTQ Catholics there, and they were just like so welcome. And I was like, oh gosh, I have to go see a talk. And so I went and I was captivated by Father Martin, and I just saw a connection to my personal story with Pulse, and I wanted to just join those two stories together with Evan.
That's great. So as far as like what has the response been to your book, Father Martin? I know from the community, you kind of show that a lot with the sort of the outreach that you've done and the advocacy that you've done. What about your fellow priests?
So my fellow Jesuits have been very supportive, and most priests, have LGBTQ people in their parishes, and if you're teaching in a school or whatever. At the beginning, it was very, very intense, kind of positive responses. In fact, one of the first places I spoke at was St. Cecilia's in Back Bay, that has a real big LGBTQ outreach. A standing ovation, 700 people, and that was like, wow, this is really great. A lot of welcoming, but then a lot of pushback, especially online, really like hateful stuff. Including from Catholics. There's a lot of homophobia in the church. And so it's been, I didn't set out to write a book like this, but it's been, it's really engendered some kind of polarizing responses. Even though it's a pretty modest book. And initially some of the LGBTQ response was, it's not going far enough, but it went too far, for some people. So kind of really very intense, often emotional reactions to the book.
It surprised me at all.
No, me neither, unfortunately.
Yeah, myself, what really kind of touched me about the film too, I grew up Catholic, and I'm a former Catholic now, just because I didn't feel a place in the church. It's not that I felt like I was welcome as long as I didn't express my queerness at all. And I was a teen that didn't really fit into an easy box, and I still feel like I don't fit into an easy box as far as gender expression and sexuality. And so for me, like, it was easier for me to step away than to kind of dig in and kind of fight for a niche, which is a little out of my personality, to be honest, because I feel like we're always fighting for our places and our representation in the world as whole. So
Yeah, and that's a lot
So
of
my
people's
question-
experience.
Oh.
Go ahead.
My next question is, I'm also was raised Catholic. My parents are still very involved in the church. And when Sean said that he liked this film, and if for Sean to say that he liked a religious doc, I was like, okay, like I don't know, but I have to watch it. And it was just, I was honestly so surprised. And maybe it was because I'm still somewhat ingrained. I have a goddaughter and I have a first communion in a couple weeks and things like that. But it was just so well done, and just how Father James you are with the community. I just think, like, if we exactly what Sean said, if we had this, maybe when I was growing up, maybe I'd still be more involved in the church. But Shannon, how did you kind of decide that the structure, and like as soon as you saw Father James, were you like, yes, like he was going to be so good on camera?
I did know he would be really good on camera. I'm like you all. I mean, when I came out 20 years ago, it was like I wasn't raised Catholic, but I was Christian, and it's like if there was someone like that around, like Father Martin, I feel like my life would have been different in terms of religion and spirituality. But Father Martin is such a force, and has such charisma and warmth, and the way that he is able to connect to people and just like see people and welcome all members of the community is just so powerful to me. And even though I can be a little skeptical of religion, and of course the LGBT community has reason to be skeptical of the Catholic Church in particular, I just thought, especially we started making this when did we started making this film? It was around like when Trump got elected, and we just wanted to showcase a positive story, and just like a warm person like Father Martin, and it just seemed right at the time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the strengths of the. I mean, Father Martin, you are such a compelling kind of watch as a subject of the documentary, and I also appreciate that the documentary itself, and sort of talking about Catholicism and sort of the church, that it wasn't like centered around the sexual abuse crisis in the Catholic Church, which I also thought was really refreshing as someone who was Catholic. I feel like we're always hungry for representation anywhere we can get it, and sometimes that representation isn't the best. And I think that both you, Father Martin, and Shannon, that you both kind of handle this sort of advocacy of bringing people in so well. So I want to commend you both for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have another question. So how did you decide about doing kind of showing the other side and the alt-right? Because that was he's interesting. He's an interesting man. But I just would love to know, A, what did he think after he saw it? And B, how did you find him?
Right. So you're talking about Michael Voris in the film. So when we started following Father Martin, some talks were getting canceled, and we were wondering what was behind all of these protests and these talks getting canceled. And it turns out it was Michael Voris and Church Militant. And we reached out to him. He's very media savvy and like very open to talking. So we went and followed him for a little bit. He was very open. We just felt like we had to tell that part of the story, because it was clearly influencing Father Martin and his ability to do his ministry and talks around in different cities. And we actually we don't know if he has seen the film, we assume, but we're not sure. So I'm afraid I can't answer that question. But when we were editing the film, we were very, very conscious. We went through so many versions of the film. We were like, really didn't want to give a platform, but we also thought it was an important part of the story. So it was a huge struggle when we were editing. to try to balance out and present a fair picture, but also one that wasn't just platforming someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that you did sort of like present him in a sort of a fair way, but he was also such a showboat in the whole thing, which was kind of like
With
I'm sure
his
it was,
Jeep, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, the Jeep scene was one of my personal favorites. And we had some talk about some on the team didn't want it in. And I thought it was just it was just like, it told a lot in just a little like random way.
So I
It
mean,
really
Father
did.
Martin, how did you think about like the sort of the like, because obviously you've seen the film, how the sort of the opposition was portrayed, in the film?
I thought it was really fair. I was very interested when Evan and Shannon were talking about, do we want to give him a platform? Do we want to, kind of highlight this guy? But I think if they had not included him, it would have been a very one-sided story. I think he is part of the Catholic Church, and that sort of homophobic, hateful part is in there. And I think it does show you what people are up against. I was stunned at some of the stuff that he said on camera. I couldn't believe it. And so, I think people can make up their minds about him. But I thought in the end, they were fair. They were fair to him. He can't say, and people who are opposed to the kind of work I'm doing can't say you didn't give us a chance to talk about it. And there he is, and he talks about it. It was funny. When I was, I don't want to give this the end of the film away, but when I was in Rome meeting with Pope Francis, I ran into him. He literally accosted me on a street in Rome and started filming me, asking me questions and screaming at me. And I thought, boy, this guy is just too much. He's really, I just said, excuse me, but he is who he is. And I think the audience can make up their minds about, where that, what his ministry is like and what's motivating it.
Yeah, it's really, he's a piece of work.
Yes, my father would use that. He's a piece of work.
He's a piece of work.
I know, because you find out it was a little bit before you found out his past, and I was like, oh, shocking. Like I could have not, I saw that coming. But Shannon, were you aware of his past originally?
Yes, he's pretty public about that. So it was pretty easy to find out that information. But I do, that's one of the reasons makes him so interesting. Or I don't know.
Sure.
I hate to say that. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, though. I do know
know.
what you mean. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of actually, a lot of the people that are sort of opposed to this kind of ministry, there's a lot of ex-gays, former gays, recovered gays, etc. And you just realize that, so much of their rage is this unprocessed, psychological stuff that's going on inside of them. And I think that's very helpful. It was very helpful for me to see the footage of him, because I thought this is where a lot of the rage is coming from. These former gays, ex-gays, unprocessed people. And, I thought a lot about some of the younger men who were protesting outside of the talk in Baltimore, screaming the Hail Mary. And I thought, I wonder what they're dealing with themselves. So it's, as you both know, as you all know, that's a lot of the source of the rage, this kind of their own problems with their own sexuality.
Yeah, I think, that's honestly the truth. Because if I can turn away from the Catholic Church in dealing with my own sexuality, I'm sure that if you've had any kind of traumatic conversion therapy, which is what it really is an institutionalized trauma, put on you, how are you supposed to sort of navigate it after? And I guess by one example, you can be like this sort of like hate monger, making your own postings on the sins of other people. So
yeah, I asked a psychologist once, I said, where does all that hatred come from? And this person said, it's easier to sort of push it out, right, than to actually look at it on the inside. And I think one of the things about this film is it shows really healthy, balanced, open LGBTQ people who have found their place in the church, who are comfortable with who they are, and are trying to make the church a more welcoming place, versus, people who are really, using hatred and homophobia to try to just basically kick gay people out. So for me, it's a pretty easy choice what side I want to be on.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, these conversations are so needed right now with all the legislation that's happening on the, especially in Florida, with the Don't Say Gay and all the anti-trans bills that are going around the country. I mean, I just found out this weekend that there is legislation in the Rhode Island House that is an anti-trans in sports kind of bill, which I just think is abhorrent. And I've been trying to encourage people in my sort of like curtain speeches as we kind of go through the festival, because obviously the festival is a platform as well, to really kind of think outside their box a little bit, and go see a film that they wouldn't necessarily expect to go see, because you may learn something about. I feel like a lot of cinema has a universality kind of component to it, and I feel like your documentary definitely expresses that to someone who might not be religious or someone who might not be Catholic. There is threads of a universality to it, which I think that would appeal to a lot of viewers. And I encourage people to see it as much as they can. So we're happy to share it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question about Christine. And you said her son was your friend, correct? And that kind of started the documentary. It was just so heartbreaking and moving, particularly when she was, talking to Father James and just saying that she never asked for anything any day, and she just asked for her son to be alive. And I thought so much of that was powerful. And I really do like how you added, it was a combination with Pulse. But I'm just wondering, do you still keep in touch with her, and how is she doing now?
Yeah, we have been in touch via email. We haven't seen her since the pandemic started, but
Mhm.
she's doing well. She watched the film. She liked it, which was great. You always want people to see themselves in their story portrayed fairly and well. But she's still doing some advocacy. She's staying home a lot because of COVID, but she's staying really active. She does a lot of gun control advocacy, and she's a force. So
She seems like the sweetest woman.
she is such a great mother.
Mhm.
It's like her life was for her son, and now she's doing what she can to honor his legacy.
Yeah, that's great.
So what's next for the film? Are you continuing on the festival circuit? Are you planning on doing a release, like a theatrical release?
Yes, so we're doing a couple more festivals, but really soon we will be premiering on video on demand streaming. So like if you can rent or buy on iTunes and all that. And then we're going to be making a premiere more broadly on a streaming platform. You can follow Building a Bridge on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter to see when we announce that. Or of course you can follow Father Martin. He'll also announce it, but we'll be announcing pretty soon when our national premiere will be.
Well, that's great. And I wish you both luck with the film. And I mean, again, it's a wonderful documentary that everyone should see. So, Building a Bridge is screening on our Zerb platform from now until the, oh my God, drum roll, till the 20th, sorry. At zerb.tv. If you want more information, go to wickedqueer.org to get tickets or find out more information. Father Martin and Shannon, thank you so much for
Thank you, guys.
being part of the festival and actually taking the time to sit down with us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, and thanks for featuring the film and all your great work.
Oh,
Thank you.
our pleasure.
Thank you very much.